Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Certified Hoopz, where we talk all basketball, from players, coaches schemes, and the rules of the game in general. I'm here today with former New York Knicks, also current head coach of Heritage Christian High School varsity boys basketball team, Patrick Eddy. Our next panelist is a graduate of Vincent High School here in Milwaukee. He also played 4 years of Division I basketball, 2 at UWM and 2 at the University of Tulsa. He's currently the boys varsity assistant basketball coach for Milwaukee Hamilton High School. I'd like to welcome Mr. Deion James to Certified Hoopz. Our last panelist is the current head coach of varsity boys basketball at Destiny High School. He's also the director for the Running Rebels community organization for summer fundamental basketball. He played high school ball for Milwaukee Bayview, 2 years at Owens Community College and 2 years at Central State University. Welcome, Mr. Brandon Joseph. And I'm your host, Alvin James. Today's show, we'll be discussing the top 10 guards in the history of the NBA. Our production team put together a list of 10-point guards, past and present, who redefined the position. After being presented with the names, our panelists will simply debate if the name called should be higher or lower on the countdown. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for being here. Let's jump right into it. At number 10 on the countdown, we've got two-time MVP Steve Nash. Deion, what do you think about Steve Nash?
I think he's a good player. He's got 2 MVPs. He's played on some good teams, Dallas, Phoenix. He's with the Lakers now. They're struggling a little bit. He's a good player, one of the best guards. He's always getting those double-digit assists.
Well, what do you feel about that, Pat, as far as Steve Nash being number 10 on the countdown list?
Well, I like Steve Nash on the number 10 countdown list for the simple fact that he's a Euro NBA player.
Okay.
He brings the quickness, the footwork, and the creativity that you need in a point guard. And he can score whenever he's needed, or he can create whenever he's needed. So I like him. I like him at the 10th spot.
Okay, and Brandon, what do you feel about this?
I truly respect Steve Nash as a player. He brings a different element to the game, like Pat said. He's a Euro point guard. But at number 10 of all time is probably little of a stretch, just based off the fact that I feel like when it comes to point guard, you have to have a little more substance under your belt as far as being on winning teams. I just feel like Steve Nash hasn't, shown that ability that he can carry teams on a consistent basis like others on this list.
Okay, sounds good. All right, coming in at number 9 is Nate Archibald. Pat, tell me, why do you think Nate should be ranked number 9, or do you feel that he should or shouldn't be at that number?
I think Nate should be way up higher. I have to think a little bit to try to figure out where. He's just that old school, hardcore scoring type of guy. He could score a lot of points, but he could also distribute. And, that 70s era, he was dominant. So okay. I like Nate at that.
What about you, Brandon? What you feel about Mr. Tiny Nate Archibald?
I kind of respect him just based off the fact when playing at that position when I played, he had a heart of a lion from some of the clips that I've seen. And also, I think that Nate actually exhibited that level of quickness that we see, similar to what we see now at that position. So number 9 he might go 2 slots higher in my personal top 10 list, but I definitely think Nate is, reminds you for back then, he reminds you of a Nate Robinson for the 70s, and you can kind of put you in the mind frame of how athletic and fast he was then. Just think that's Nate. He's Nate Robinson of the 70s.
Okay. And Deion, what do you feel about Mr. Nate Archibald?
Well, I don't know too much about Nate Archibald. I just hear about when they talk about all the small guards, the Iversons, the Tim Hardaways, they always compare him to Nate Archibald.
Now, with Nate Archibald, he was also one of the guys that did do the triple doubles throughout his career. As far as one season, he averaged a triple double.
No.
Oh, he led the.
We're getting to him. We're gonna get to that guy.
No, he led the lead in scoring and assists one year, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did do that.
Yes, he did do that.
Yes, he did the league in scoring and assists. I think he's the only player who did that.
Right.
The thing that makes him unique is his physicality. He was just physical.
All right, When we return, we're going to keep counting down point guards. If you're just tuning in, me and the panel have been counting down our top 10 point guards in NBA history. Okay, at number 8, our list is the glove, Gary Payton. Patrick, what do you think about the glove?
GP, that's one of my personal buddies I had a chance to try out with Seattle. And just like Brandon was saying, when it comes to the point guard, he's like that quarterback, the director. When you find yourself out on the court and you ask yourself, man, how did I get this open? Right. It's not you. It's that point guard who creates an opportunity for you to grow well. So GP, man, he could, had a nice jump shot. He could drive and just get you the ball. So I like GP here. I'll probably take a look and maybe get him a little higher.
Okay. Deion, what about you? What do you feel about Gary Payton?
Great point guard, obviously one of the best defensive point guards we have. Great competitor, and he ended up getting his ring with Miami Heat with 2006 with Shaq. So he did get a ring, and he wasn't just a bench rider on that team. He wasn't a starter.
What do you feel about Gary Payton?
I think he is quite deservable to be named the top 10 point guards of the history. He always played with a certain competitive edge that we always would like to encourage, with us being coaches, our players to play with. He lockdown defender. I think he had one thing we haven't mentioned yet is great size. He was 6'4".
Yeah.
6'4" as a point guard with a wingspan probably about, long as ever.
I want to add something on his competitiveness. We came from Seattle to Chicago in the preseason to play a game, and he challenged me. I think we were playing Tunk or something. He challenged me to bet, and I was like, ain't no way in the world, your money's too big. He said, well, let's bet our per diem. And I was beating him all the way until the descent. He wanted to up the ante, and me being a nice guy let him catch up. So he's definitely a competitor. His father was a head coach, and that's where he got that mean streak, Mr. Mean.
They say he's one of the best trash talkers of all time.
Oh, he could back it up, too.
So he'd probably be the number 1 trash talkers on that list then.
Oh, definitely.
Jordan, too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, getting back to our countdown. At number 7 on the list is the Houdini of the hardwood, Boston Celtics great and Hall of Famer Bob Koozie. Deion, what do you feel about Bob Coozie's game?
I just see the highlights, playing with Russell and Havlicek. Havlicek steals the ball.
Right.
So I just seeing him dribble around everybody, when he's running around. So he played early on. I don't really know too much. Know he was great point guard, great Celtic, great leader. But I got him on the list. I got him a little higher than this.
Okay.
But I just know he also played with a bunch of Hall of Famers. He played on a great team. So I know he was a good point guard. I got him
championships,
a lot of championships, 6 championships, I think. So I got him a little higher just out of respect.
Okay. What about you, Pat? What you feel about Mr. Bob Koozie?
Definitely top 5.
Top 5.
You're talking about 6 NBA championships. Any way you want to cut it, sometimes we say, well, maybe the talent is different from the time. No, this guy had 6 championships. That's saying a lot. Him being the floor general. That's saying that I know how to get the job done. And later on in the show, we'll talk about a guy like Sam Cassell, who was able to get back-to-back championships. It's just something about a point guard who can find a way to win. So, top 5.
Okay. Brandon, what do you feel about Mr. Bob Koozie?
Similar to Deion, I'm a couple decades too young for Bob Koozie, but from the highlights, from the actual statistics that we look at, Bob Koozie was actually a man among boys, in terms of how he orchestrated the team at that time. I think Bob is he's known for that Pacific play that Deion brought up, but besides that, you can't. A winner is a winner, especially at the highest level of the game. Playing in the NBA, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he has 6 NBA championships. But I think he's one of 3 on this list also with a NCAA championship as well,
right,
with Holy Cross, if I'm not mistaken. So just that alone, that's pedigree that you can't teach. And actually, he's higher on my list as well.
Good. Okay, moving along the countdown to number 6, our production team has selected Jason Kidd. Going back to you, Deion, tell me, how do you feel about Mr. Jason Kidd?
Love him.
Okay.
Love Jason Kidd. We finally got to a guy of my era. Jason Kidd, he just embodies the point guard. Quarterback, whether you want to call him a quarterback. In football, we talk about the quarterback being the most important. Baseball, the pitcher. Basketball, we got the point guard. Kidd embodies all of that. He come into the league in 1994. You know, he was also Rookie of the Year with Grant Hill. I wish the Bucks would have picked him. And we just and one thing about Jason Kidd, people say he's not a shooter. People don't realize he's one of the top three-point shooters of all time. He has some of the top threes made of all time. And coming into the league, and that was a weakness of him. And he's also top on assists. Got his championship with Dallas, beat one of my favorite players, LeBron. So I can't say enough about Jason Kidd. I have him higher on my list on this.
Okay. What about you, Pat? What you feel about Jason Kidd?
Solid. I mean, just solid all around. We're one of the better shooters out of all of these point guards that we have, you know, as it relates to three-point shots and just knock down jump shots. He's been a great leader. I would have to put a Nate Archibald ahead of him, but I think six is pretty good in this list for me.
Okay.
You seen what he done with the Knicks this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Can't dispute that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's just straight skill. Like you said, that's just straight, I know what I need to
At
do.
39 years old.
Getting these guys involved. So I'll give him his props, no doubt about it.
Okay. Brandon, what do you think about Jason Kidd?
Oh, I gotta mimic what I just heard. I love him. I love him since I saw him in California. I think he was bringing a different element to the game in terms of his versatility. He can shoot, he can pass, he can see behind him, he can see in front of him. And I want to, you know, with me being a little smaller, I'm always in love with 6'4" guys who can do things that 5'10" guys can do. You know, that's just my personal, you know, opinion. But I think I got him deadlocked at 6.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back to Certified Hoops, our panelists will get to the last five point guards on our countdown. Welcome back to Certified Hoops, where we have taken 10 of the greatest point guards in NBA history and compiled them into a countdown. We're on number 5 now, and that man is Hall of Famer and 2-time world champion Walt Frazier. Tell me, Brandon, what do you feel about Walt Frazier as a point guard?
Just a decade too young to really gravitate to what he brought to the game. Obviously, being a Hall of Famer, it must have been a lot. But from you know, with us growing up, we do study highlights, and thank Lord for highlights. So the highlights that I've seen, I could not lock in. A point guard didn't just come to my mind. He reminded me of kind of like a combination guard. So when I think about the rest of the individuals we talked about on this list, I'm thinking of, you know, legit point guards, floor generals, directors, and also quarterbacks. And Walt Frazier just didn't come to my mind. He was skilled. He was successful at what he did, but point guard just didn't come to my mind. So I didn't have him in my top 5 for that reason.
Okay. What about you, Deion? What did you think about Walt Frazier?
Well, like Brandon said, I think of all these guys on this list, he's definitely the most combo guard of all of them. I think all the other ones are just pure point guards, and I think of Frazier as more of a combo, you know, both 1 and 2. Probably number 1 on style list.
Right.
What about you, Pat?
Well, me being former
Old
New
school.
York Knick, I know Clyde too. I should know a whole lot more about him, but he was smooth with it. I mean, his whole situation on the court and off the court was always debonair and smooth. He made it look easy. He was that type of player. He definitely belongs in the top 5. It's just hard to kind of define why. You understand what I'm saying? That's how smooth he was, you know. That's what I have for Clyde. But he's definitely, I think he belongs at 5.
Okay.
We can't have 7 guys in the top 5.
No, that's what we're going to see.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's keep moving along here. Okay, now at number 4 is one of Detroit Pistons' bad boys, Mr. Isaiah Zeke Thomas. What do you think about Isaiah Thomas, Mr. Patrick?
About Zeke. Zeke, look, when I saw this cat in warm-ups cross over, I thought he was going to break his ankles, man. I mean, he's just super quick and just super tough. And the way that he could score was just awesome. I mean, I have to even put him a little higher. I put him in the top 3. I mean, Isaiah Thomas, the way he did it, it was dominant and strong. Man, top 3.
Okay. Brandon, what do you think about Zeke?
Thank you, Isaiah. Thank you for actually, giving us the opportunity to see how, a team is ran and do it at a high level. Isaiah Thomas is definitely a top 5 without a doubt. He actually brought just the skill element to the game. And young people, if you haven't seen Isaiah Thomas, which will come up later, he reminds you of a little of Chris Paul, in terms of, his awareness, the way he can push the ball and also finish by the rim at 6'1" and 6 foot and some change, So Isaiah Thomas is definitely a top 5. I got him locked at that position as well. I love Isaiah Thomas and what he brought to the game.
Okay, Deion, your thoughts on that?
I got him a little higher. I think Isaiah's great. Anybody who beat Jordan, that alone, So he gave Jordan fits, his teams. I think he's one of the best point guards of all time. I got him higher. One stat I like about Isaiah is 12-time NBA All-Star. Mm-hmm. Well, he only played 12 years in the league. So I mean,
that says it all right there.
Every year he was dominant. So you can't say enough about Isaiah.
Okay. All right, now number 3 on the countdown is the great Oscar Robertson. I'm going to go back to you, Deion. I want you to tell me, what do you feel about Oscar Robertson?
Well, what we all know about Oscar is the triple-double. Something that I think will never happen again. Him averaging a triple-double is one of those stats, one of those records that probably will never be broken. Even though we see guys like LeBron who get near triple-doubles every night, to average one is pretty ridiculous. Yeah, so, I don't even think nobody's came close, I think Jason Kidd was around there, but he was like 2 or 3 rebounds short. So I just think, and he was 6'5", and, I got him deadlocked right there at 3.
Okay.
Great player.
Okay. What about you, Pat? What do you feel about Oscar Robertson?
I like him at 2 and maybe even 1, just for production purposes. Now, we're going to have some disputes on this, but as it relates to production, that triple-double, man, most of his, he was always a high point scorer, a scorer.
Right.
And I'll get you some rebounds and some assists with it. So the reason that he's so unique from other point guards is because of his production at the point guard position.
Brandon, tell me, what do you think about Oscar Robertson?
LeBron James, you can do it. You can do what he did in 1961 and 62 season. You can do it, James. 31, 11, and 12. That's what I think about Oscar Robertson. At the end of the day, I know we talk about, that one little lonely little banner we have in the rafter of the BMO. We talk about that one, and we think of the big O, but hey, 31, 11, and 12. That wipe away, that 31, 11, and 12 is probably the most impressive stat of NBA history.
With
that
no
alone,
3-point line, right?
With no 3-point line. Come on, man. That man was a part of, what that tells me as a coach, he was a part of every possession. Every single possession that took place in the game, he played it. So he maximized his minutes. The big O, definitely top 3. He's right there at number 3. I got a lot of right theres. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
He's right there.
I got him locked. I got him
locked at
what
number
would
3.
31 points equate with a 3-point line now? What you think that would average out to be?
50. Nifty.
Right.
All right, don't change the channel. We'll be back in a sec to complete our countdown of the top 10 point guards in NBA history with the final 2 point guards on the list. And we're counting down the top 10 point guards of NBA history. If you're just now tuning in, here's a recap of the list of great NBA point guards. At number 10, we had Steve Nash. At number 9, Nate Archibald. 8, Gary Payton. 7, Bob Koozie. At 6, we had Jason Kidd. At 5, Walt Frazier. At 4, we had Oscar Robertson. And at 3, we had Isaiah Thomas. Our number 2 on our current countdown of the greatest NBA point guards to play this game and is holding the NBA records for most career assists and steals by considerable margins is Utah Jazz point guard John Stockton. Tell me, Brandon, what do you think about John Stockton as a point guard?
Look in the dictionary, and it has point guard right there. His face should be just like this, you know. John Stockton defined what we're talking about, certified hoops, point guard, top 10 countdown. John Stockton played with one Hall of Famer that I can recommend of in Karl Malone. The rest of that team, and Mark Edens and David Benoit's and the Hornaceks, I love you. But guess what? You guys wasn't studs to make the Hall of Fame list. So John Stockton maximized his potential by seeing the play before it happened. It actually defined him the pick and roll to a degree where he can run camps throughout this nation and show you 275 ways to run a pick and roll. And we can see it always and successfully. So to me, based off him being an all-time assist leader, based off him being an all-time steals leader, played 19 years, and also what I found quite impressive in his stats, he was a 6-time second team all-defensive team, 6 times. So that's quite impressive for a guy who I feel like wasn't the most athletic. You know, for a guy who I feel like just had a knack for basketball. John Stockton is number 1 on my list.
Before I touch with Dion and Pat, I want to ask you, do you think John Stockton made Karl Malone a Hall of Famer?
Oh, without a doubt that he made. Karl Malone probably eats breakfast. They go to IHOP every morning on Karl Malone. Just based off the fact that Karl Malone was as a point guard, you have to put people in positions to be successful.
Okay. Dion, what do you think about John Stockton?
Well, when you think about a point guard, what do you want your point guard to do? You want your point guard to defend. Well, he's the all-time leader in steals. You want your point guard to be able to pass. He's the all-time leader in assists. You want your point guard to be durable. He played 19 years. You want your point guard to be able to shoot. Stockton was a great shooter. So, like Brandon said, he embodies the point guard. You know, I think he's one of the most underrated players of all time. Let's just throw point guards out the window. He's one of the best players in NBA history. The fact that he never won a championship was because he played in the Jordan era. So, you know, you got to put an asterisk about that. But he also played on that 92 Dream Team. A lot of people don't realize he also played on the 96 Dream Team in Atlanta. So he does have 2 gold medals. And the fact that he is number 1 in assists by about 4,000 assists, I think, that's probably a record that will never be broken too. So great player. I got him number 2.
Okay. Patrick, what about you with John Stockton?
I love John Stockton, and Brandon and Dion really just, they defined the production that gives him the ability to go to number 2.
Some of those, he's the all-time leading assists. Like Brandon said, he only played with 1 Hall of Famer.
Right.
Take him off the team, put him on with Koozie with all those Hall of Famers.
Right.
He might be number 1 all-time in assists by 10,000.
Right.
Exactly. I agree with you. I mean, he defines, like the pick and roll. You can do it so many different ways. And the fact that he did it with that one guy is awesome. So,
At number 1 of all time is Laker great, 5-time NBA champion and Hall of Famer, Earvin Magic Johnson. I'm going to start with you, Pat. What do you feel about Magic, and do you think or do you feel that he should be number 1 without a shadow of a doubt?
he's definitely number 1. Magic is proven with his championships, with his skill level, that he could get it done with a special style, a fast-paced. The Showtime was a unique style. As a matter of fact, Showtime now defines the current year's basketball level. If you're a big guy, you have to be able to run the court. That all came from Magic Johnson. It just took maybe a couple of decades for it to transfer, but I mean, Magic Johnson is, man, I had an opportunity to play with him in Japan with his all-star team, and we were down a couple of points, and he ended up hitting a half-court shot, and I was like, he is Magic for real, So I put him at number 1, no-brainer.
Okay, and Dion, what about you with Magic?
No-brainer. It's Magic, 6'9", point guard, 5-time NBA champion. That's one of the unique stats. He played 11 years. In those 11 years, he went to the finals 9 times. He won 5 out of 9. 9 times in his 11 years. You know, and another unique stat, he played 11 years, but he's a 12-time All-Star. So think about that. The year he didn't play, he was still playing the All-Star game that last year. If you guys remember, he had to retire due to HIV in September, but fans still voted him in February to play an All-Star game, and he got the MVP of that down in Orlando, making all those threes. He's one of the best winners. Like Brandon said, he won in college too. All-time winner, all-time competitor, 5-time champion, gold medal. You know, he's done it all. I think it's a no-brainer, number one.
Okay, so we have 2 consensus no-brainers for Magic at number 1. But I'm gonna talk to Mr. Brandon Joseph here because I think we might have a difference of opinion here. So what do you feel?
Magic. Don't get me wrong. My mom used to say, "Showtime's on," and I used to run to the room. You know, I used to run to the room. Especially, I always remember, you know, that one right there. I mean, man, I do that to this day. Magic Johnson, 6'9" point guard. You think like, did somebody create this guy?
We've never seen another.
Never seen another one. I think Magic, and you know, hopefully you don't get to watch this, but the only reason I didn't put you number 1 is because of this, which you probably had nothing in terms of this, how to develop. You had no part in this. James Worthy is a Hall of Famer. I think he played with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's a Hall of Famer. I think he played with Bob McAdoo for a year, a Hall of Famer. Jamal Wilkes, a Hall of Famer. I know it wasn't your fault, Magic. I know, I hear you tweet. It wasn't your fault, but I see you tweet, but it wasn't your fault. But these were great players, and that's why I got them locked in to number 2.
So who's your number 1?
John Stockton, and it wasn't before today, before I found out I was going on this show.
What he got in there?
John Stockton is my number 1 point guard of all time, based off he maximized the position, and he had Mark Eaton, all right, Brian Russell, all right, he had a bunch of guys and won.
All right, well, okay, that's our show for today. We here at Certified Hoops would like to thank the panel, Patrick, Brandon, and Dion, along with you viewers out there for watching. I'm Alvin James, and as always, keep hooping, Hoopers.